February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Yes, Groundhog Day. So let's all do the pledge. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Missoula County would like to acknowledge that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. Do we have any public announcements?
Commissioner Slotnick, I'll just quickly say, if you're joining us for this meeting virtually today, I'm going to put instructions up on the screen for how to turn on closed captioning. If you're joining us in person, we'll have closed captioning on all the screens here in the Sophie Moise room, and we also have assistive listening devices available. If you would like one of those, come see me. We ask that all speakers today please remember to speak slowly and clearly during the meeting, which helps with the accuracy of the closed captioning. And if you have any questions or concerns, please come find me during the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Violet. We do have a proclamation. Would either of you fine colleagues like to read said proclamation?
Okay, this is a proclamation of Missoula County and the city of Missoula. Whereas in 1926, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History started a National Negro History Week in the second week of February, intentionally chosen because it fell between the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And whereas in the following decades, mayors and cities across the United States began issuing yearly proclamations recognizing Negro History Week, and whereas following the Civil Rights Movement and a growing awareness of Black identity in 1976, President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month, urging the public to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. And whereas Missoula County and the city of Missoula recognize that Montana currently has the smallest percentage of people who identify as Black or African American in the United States, reflecting the complexity of Montana's Black history. And whereas Missoula County and the city of Missoula recognize Montana's Black history, spanning from the first documented arrival of enslaved Africans in 1805 as part of the Lewis and Clark expedition into the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people, and the publication of Montana's first Black newspaper, The Colored Citizen, in 1894, to the election of Geraldine Travis, the first African-American woman elected to the Montana legislature in 1974, and the election of the state's first Black mayor, Wilmot Collins, in 2017. And whereas in Missoula County, the percentage of our residents who identify as Black or African American is 0.6%, highlighting the importance of the preservation of Black history culture in our community. And whereas Montana's Black history is reflected in Missoula through the bravery and valor displayed by the 25th Infantry Bicycle Corps, the United States' first unit of Black soldiers formed in 1896 to test the combat viability of bicycles, including an over 1,900-mile ride from Fort Missoula to St. Louis, Missouri. And whereas other examples of Missoula's enduring Black history can be found in the 1400 block of Phillips Street, the site of the former St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church, Missoula's first Black church, which stood from 1910 to 1946, and whose congregants built a community and pursued racial equity with neighbors, regardless of race, in the face of threats from the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist organizations. And whereas Missoula County and the city of Missoula are proud to join the state of Montana in recognizing the accomplishments and contributions of Black Americans who are part of the fabric of our nation here in Montana and throughout history and today. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Missoula County and the Mayor of the City of Missoula, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2023 as Black History Month, dated the second day of February 2023.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Does make me proud that we're doing this at a moment in American history when in other states and governmental locations, the active erasure of African American history is happening. I'm thinking of Florida, and courses removed from public schools. Anyway, whoever put this together word-wise did a great job, and thank you for reading it. Okay, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? All right, our current claims list. Claims received as of January 18th, 2023 to January 24th, 2023 by the Commissioner's Office total $1,984,036.24. We have 4 resolutions. I'm sorry, 3, one's postponed. Thank you, one. Yeah, 3 as one of these family transfers has been postponed. 3 resolutions. The first one comes to us from our very own Chet Krauser.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here to present to you for your consideration today a resolution for calling an election on the question of establishing a community council for the Clinton area. And I'll start by just recapping where we've been in some of those conversations and highlight the outreach and engagement we've had, and then give you some more details for you to consider in this resolution today. So as a recap, in fall of 2021, some folks in Clinton initially contacted the county with the idea of a Clinton Community Council, which led to some follow-up with staff in kind of figuring out what that process would look like, and then letting them know what they would need to do to move that idea forward. A key component of that was a petition. They gathered in the local community. There were 83 signatures contained in that petition, and that was received by the county in March of 2022. That petition essentially asked the commissioners to move this concept of creating a community council forward, in particular getting that on a ballot for the community to consider in an election. So late spring, summer 2022, county staff, including the county commissioner's office, the Lands and Communities Office, County Attorney's Office, and election pulled together an outline for formal process steps that would then advance that concept further. And then on the 12th of this year, the BCC adopted a resolution of intent to put the community council concept on the ballot. And the requirement as part of that resolution of intent was that there would need to at least be 8 letters of interest from the community that would both be willing to serve on an initial council should that pass by the voters, and then ultimately be willing to put their name on a future ballot to continue to serve as a council member. The deadline for that was January 30th. And the outreach that was associated with that included Missoula County's news releases and social media channels that went out to the community, as well as notification on the Missoula County Voice page. There was an NBC Montana story that was picked up, so it was in the local media there. And then we also pushed that out via the Nextdoor app, which is kind of a local kind of social media type app that reaches out to various communities. And then there were also some contact lists that were associated with various prior engagement projects, including the Clinton Community Center conversations that have happened recently with the Parks, Trails, and Open Lands program. And then there was a fair bit of direct contact with folks in the community, and I know some sharing of that information in those kind of local channels as well. So bringing us to today, as we approached that time frame to receive letters, we ended up with 12 of them, all total. 11 of those will apply because one of those letters was actually submitted by a Granite County resident, and the reason for that is that the Clinton School District spans the Missoula County-Granite County boundary, and so that one was ineligible because they're just not a resident of Missoula County. So counting the 11, the threshold was met for then us to come to you today for consideration of a resolution that would then place the question of a community council for the Clinton area on the ballot. And this would be on the special district election that would be held on May 2nd of this year. If that's the direction the commission elects to go today, then staff would be out in the community to hold a couple of question and answer or public meeting sorts of sessions, just to try to make sure that folks are understanding of the process, have any questions that they might have answered, and just facilitate getting that community council kind of established, or at least informing folks on what they'd be voting on and understanding of what the function of a council might look like. If it then passed in the election, the community council would be created with the county commissioners appointing the initial 5 members. You'd use the letters of interest that were submitted to you following the resolution of intent to essentially be the pool of folks that you would consider for appointment. And then we would, in accordance with the existing community council bylaws, stagger those terms so that you never had the entirety of that council all up for re-election at one point in time. And the bylaws, as they're structured now, would appoint 1 3-year term, 2 2-year terms, and 1 1-year term for that initial council. And then as terms expires or members resigned, you would see those folks as well as any additional members of the community who might want to be on the council, put their names on the ballot in subsequent election cycles to fill those vacancies. And with that, I'll stand for questions. If I didn't get an answer to something you were thinking about, happy to answer that or flesh out more of the details.
You guys think? Yeah, do we have any public comment on this? Yes, yeah, please, please. Public comments, good, thank you. Oh.
Hi, Lisa Davey. I'm a Clinton resident and have been working with your office to turn in the petition and working with locals to figure out how community council could work for us. And so I'm just here in person today to say, please put this on the ballot for us. We'd like an opportunity to have everyone vote on it.
I'm Susan Holloway. I'm also a local resident out in Tura, real estate agent, and worked at the school for 4 years. And I'm along with Lisa. I think it's important that we have local residents out there speaking for our local residents. And so if it's formed, that's what I hope to do.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this? Oh,
Yeah,
there's a
we have
hand up online. Tracy. I think you may be muted, Tracy. Well, we can come back to you. You guys have any?
No, maybe, yeah, it's, if Tracy is unable to mute herself, maybe she could put her comments in the chat.
That's a good idea.
there is no chat, but Tracy, to
Oh.
unmute, you'll just have to hit the button that looks like a microphone on your screen, and that should allow us to hear you.
Okay, am I unmuted?
There you
Yep.
are. Yeah, thanks.
All right. Hi, my name's Tracy McMillan. The only thing I'd like to say about this is the whole community was not informed. Social media does not let everybody know what's going on. And as far as the Clinton Community Center members being notified, we were not. We have been very active with the community center, and none of us were notified.
Please, Dave.
Tracy, this is Dave Stromer. I guess the question is, are you opposed or supportive of having the opportunity to vote on forming a Clinton Community Council?
I am opposed.
So you do not want your fellow neighbors to have the chance to vote on forming a community council?
No, because you're
Okay.
not including everybody in the vote.
Well, if you live in the Clinton area, you will have, and a registered voter, you can vote on it in the May election.
Yes, I am. And no, not everybody in the school district is allowed to vote. Just like he said, one petition
Well-
was turned down because they're in Granite County, but they're in the school district.
Okay, thank you. Only Missoula County residents get to vote on matters that pertain to Missoula County. Thank you.
Juan, do you have anything to?
No, and looks like there's a Susan.
Susan.
Hi, my name's Susan Mace. I'm also a resident of Clinton. I live in Tura, and we've been talking about the possibility of forming a community council for a number of years now, with various delays for the pandemic and such. But I do think that for people who may not agree with a community council for our area, I would just invite them to vote no when it's on the ballot. But I do think that we should actually put it on the ballot so that all of the people who are registered voters in Missoula County can vote and contribute their opinions that way about whether we have a community council. I myself am in favor of a community council.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks.
I want to make sure that anybody else who has something to say, oh, looks like we have another one. Mary.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Maladragovich, and I am also a resident of Clinton, and just wanted to voice my support for the vote and my appreciation for the consideration of this measure. I think it goes a long ways towards our community having a say over how we grow, because we know we will grow, and appreciate the chance to have this on the ballot and recommend that it be added to the ballot.
Thank you. Oh, here comes somebody. Please do say your name, Travis.
My name is Travis Mateer. I'm an independent journalist and I live in Missoula, but I would be in support of a Clinton Community Council. When I was looking into how a 80-year-old woman was beat to death in Clinton, the only place I could really go to was a local bar to get local information from local residents about what may be happening. And since I'm really interested in Missoula County Sheriff's Office capacity and handling stuff in this big county of ours, it'd be great for me as an independent journalist to have another alternative, like a city council, community council kind of setup. Because then maybe the residents can have more chances to get information from these big institutions that have, authority over investigating things like murder in their community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else out there would like to speak to this? Do you guys have any comments? Anything you'd like to say?
As I think it's I'm in support of this, and I know that I feel like for a number of years we haven't been able to have good representation or dialogue from the Clinton-Tura area. So I'm excited that there was interest shown in the letters of the 11 or 12 letters, and so I'd like to give it a go.
Yeah, I'm delighted to give the residents of the Clinton-Tura area the opportunity in a democratic fashion to vote on whether or not they want to form a community council. And so for folks who don't know, community councils are advisory bodies to the Board of County Commissioners, and it really provides the feet on the ground out in the community as far as knowing the hopes and goals and desires of individual communities. So I'm delighted to see a critical mass of folks step up and be willing to participate. And I look forward to supporting this, and I'll make the motion that we adopt the resolution.
Great. I got to throw my little comment in here.
Well, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate this. So this isn't us saying we have a dog in the fight that we demand there be such a community council or not. What we're doing is leaving it up to the good folks of Clinton to make that decision, which feels really good. It's up to you all who live in Clinton. If this is something you want, vote for it. If this is something you don't want, don't vote for it. If we were acting only in our own interests, we wouldn't have yet another community council, because it takes a lot of work, even though the benefit is fantastic that we get to hear what's going on the ground. So with that, I hope that it happens. So.
I second Dave's motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, and thanks, Chet and crew, for doing all the work to bring us this far.
Vote in May.
Go vote. Okay, the next hearing's on the Billington family transfer, and Lauren Ryan will present.
Thank you, commissioners. For the record, Lauren Ryan with the Planning Office. The request in front of you today is for the Billington family transfer. The request comes from Lester and Alita Billington, who's represented by Toby Dumont with PCI. The request is to utilize the family transfer exemption to create and transfer one parcel to their son. In addition, it will also be to expunge a boundary created by a deed through an aggregation. The property is located in the Y off of El Toro Lane, just east of Highway 93. The tract is approximately 5 acres in size and is zoned rural residential and agriculture. It also falls within the 2019 Missoula area land use element, which designates the property as rural residential and agriculture, which recommends a density of 1 unit per 10 acres and 1 unit per 2 acres. And the proposal today meets both the zoning requirements and the land use density recommendation. Here's a closer view at the property. There's one existing single family residence on the property, along with an outbuilding. The existing tract of record is a little over 5 acres, lot 4A1, which was created through an occasional sale back in 1979. So the request today would create one additional parcel and would be transferred to their son, Jake Billington, and then also aggregate a boundary line created by a deed. Here's the proposal. So lot B, a little over 3 acres would remain in ownership by the applicant, and lot A, right at 2 acres, would be transferred to their son. And this is the old boundary created by that deed that would be expunged by the aggregation request. So with the request, the staff reviewed the rebuttable presumptions and general evasion criteria in the subdivision regulations and are found in the staff analysis. There was one of the criteria that was triggered, which was if the proposed division is on a tract that was previously created through use of a family transfer exemption, mortgage security exemption, or occasional sale exemption, or has received preliminary plat approval. And as mentioned, that tract was originally created through an occasional sale in 1979. The proposal was sent to the agencies for comment, and we did not receive any comments of concern from the various agencies. So staff is recommending approval of the family transfer and also of the aggregation exemption. And so with that, I will ask that the applicant come forward to answer questions related to the family transfer. And if I could just have you state your name for the record. So first, did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
No, we did not. My name's Alita Billington.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Sorry. Do you or your transferees intend to transfer the property within the next year?
No,
Have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
no,
And will the property be developed?
just a single family residence for him.
Great. And will the recipient of the property be residing on the property?
My name is Jake Billington, and yes, so we'll be residing there.
Great. Thank you. And so with that, that concludes my staff report, and happy to answer any questions.
You guys have any questions?
I do not. This is remarkably straightforward.
I would say
Straightforward.
refreshingly straightforward. for
I
family
can say I was responsible for that, but.
Nice job, Billingtons.
I'd move to approve the application by Lester and Alita Billington.
Oh.
Oops,
Public comment?
Sorry,
Thank you.
jumping the gun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Crack that whip.
Anybody like to speak to this? Any public comment on the Billington family transfer? All right, I guess we can have a motion.
Okay, I will move to approve the application by Lester and Alita Billington to utilize the aggregation exemption and to aggregate and expunge a lot, and to utilize the family transfer exemption to create a transfer one parcel to immediate family member.
Second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Well done.
you.
Thank you. All right, thanks. So our last hearing for the day is on establishing Missoula County's Housing Innovation Fund, and we have our very own Garrick. Okay, take your time. We're going at record pace.
Really quickly, Commissioner Slotnick, just because it was noticed on the agenda, I just wanted it in the record that the Hollinger family transfer is postponed.
Thank you, Violet.
I'll let Lauren speak to that really quick.
Right, I apologize. I also jumped up quickly and didn't address the next one. So yeah, we are working with the applicant to set a later date. I would imagine one of the March public hearings will be when that will be coming back to you.
Great. Thanks,
So,
Lauren.
Thanks.
I'm just realizing now that there is an R in Garrick's last name. That sounds so much like Matt Heimel. I've been calling you Garrick Hamel for over a year. Yeah, I'm not wearing my glasses and it's much larger on the screen now.
It's okay. I will answer to Garrick Hamill. I will answer to pretty much anything except for Gary. So you're totally safe with me. So good afternoon. Sorry. My name is Garrick Harmel, and I am Missoula County's housing specialist. I'm here to give some context and an overview of the Housing Innovation Fund, which is on your agenda for consideration today. Housing affordability is an issue affecting our entire community, as housing is no longer affordable to many Missoula County residents. Missoula County's housing needs are multifaceted and require multiple strategies to address. Breaking Ground, Missoula County's Housing Action Plan contains recommendations and strategies for addressing these needs. Establishing the Housing Innovation Fund is the first action item from that plan. $750,000 in funding coming from the sale of lots in the Missoula Development Park would seed this fund. The Housing Innovation Fund, or I like to say the HIF, will be nimble and flexible to address evolving community needs. It will increase opportunities along the housing spectrum by creating innovative programs. It will leverage additional funding to support created programs. And it will focus on a range of housing priorities for households at or below 200% of area median income, which is approximately $160,400 for a family of four. So if you think of housing as a spectrum, this is a visual image that shows area median income. So I'm going to take just a few seconds to go over this because there's a lot kind of going on here. If you look to the left, you can see, so this is a range of incomes. If you look to the left, those are all of the incomes that are eligible for federal funds. If you move up the spectrum, you're seeing items that are addressed or incomes that are addressed by local housing policy. And at the end of the spectrum, you're seeing where along the spectrum is provided by current market conditions. And so this is a great framework for us to evaluate and go back to think about how we're making decisions or how we're thinking about programs. Because Missoula County needs housing at every portion of this spectrum. The Housing Innovation Fund is intended to be flexible and encompass programs for a broad range of incomes along this spectrum. And just for example, to be able to afford a home that is the median sale price, a family of four with down payment assistance would need to make 170% of area median income. That's roughly $140,000. Given the unusual market dynamics, flexibility will be important as market and housing conditions change for the creation of future programs. Speaking of future programs, there are priorities that could be developed into future programs under the Housing Innovation Fund. The public and commissioners will have a chance to weigh in on these priorities in future programs, including land acquisition, down payment assistance programs, preservation of existing affordable housing, infrastructure support, and support for new development. Thank you for your consideration of this resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks a lot, Garrick. Before we ask questions, would anybody like to speak to this? Please do, sir.
That one there. Hi, my name's David Olson. I have some concerns about this initiative for the housing program, not because I'm opposed to giving local residents within the county a hand up. I just want to make sure it's not a handout. Right. So if you go back to your slides to the spectrum you were talking about there.
Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, no worries. So one of the concerns that I have, and as it comes up, is the lower spectrum. So I'm assuming that all of these figures are based on a family of four. So a family of four who's making, so are we talking about housing acquisition or are we talking about rent?
Talking about both.
Talking about both. So I would understand the rental piece to that. What I have discovered though, and I read it a few days ago, that 80% of Americans making over $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. So they are living beyond their means. And my concern is that it's going to be taxpayer dollars going into this housing program, and it's just going to put somebody in a home that they might want, but they don't necessarily need. Right. So the idea is to not set up people who are already in a hard position and set them up for failure. So on the lower spectrum, a family of four making $24,500, they don't need a house, they need job skills, right? So they can improve their career so that they can better themselves and maybe get up in a higher bracket. Someone on that end, I would say, is more of a rental issue than buying a home. I also have concerns with, because I know the city has its own programs for housing. Is this primarily going to be focused outside of city limits, or are we talking within the city limits countywide, or how is this going to work as far as that goes? I mean, are we going to limit this to a county only program, or is it going to include the city of Missoula?
My understanding is primarily outside of city limits. That's without drawing a hard line, because there may be an issue where that doesn't apply. We want to be reasonable to look at reality and the context on the ground.
Right.
Fully acknowledging, as you are aptly pointing out, sir, that the city has a program.
Right.
There isn't something outside of city limits. So that's primarily our focus.
Okay. So those are my main concerns, and this has just been over the past couple of days. I saw that this was coming up on the agenda. So, ensuring that, your lower income, a family of four I alone make $24,500 all by myself, not including anybody else. At least that much. And in my career time, to get into a house that I wanted, as opposed to a house that I needed, it took me till I was 30. I agree that there needs to be a spectrum of houses that are created that run the gamut of, a house that's $130,000 all the way up to $250,000 or higher. I think that is needed within the community. But I think if you have somebody who is on the lower end of the spectrum, there needs to be more put to it. You know, here's a rental home and here's some assistance in gaining more job skills, you know, bringing in higher pay so that they can move into the home that they want as opposed to the home that they need. And like, I just want to reiterate that I don't understand where the touch points are with the community, with the taxpayers as to the programs that would be coming up to this to fund something like this. I just want to make sure that it is a hand up and not a handout. So I think that establishing a fund at this point is putting the cart before the horse. I think that there needs to be some discussions about programs that would be coming along with the fund. And then that would be something that the community and the commissioners would vote on at that time. So I would be against this at this point. I'd like to see more development of programs first.
Great. Thanks for your comments. Anybody else like to speak to this?
Hi, Travis Matirigan, a resident of Missoula. Just two suggestions. I think if the past few months with the crisis mill levy is any indicator, there's a lot of public skepticism about how local resources are used. And so anything that can be done to show that recipients of funds might be vetted for the use of other programs, even other financial programs in the past, so that funds can be targeted to where they might do the best. And then anything that can be done to look and put pressure on policies that add to a revolving door. So I worked at the Poverty Center for 7 years. I've seen the revolving door. I've seen the housing authority policies that disallow guests or visitors to stay at a housing unit for longer than maybe, you know, a certain amount of time. There are realities on the ground on how the support plays out that will oftentimes, if people aren't ready for housing, will put them back on the streets. And that gets more costly the more you're just running people through these programs without doing more front-end vetting in terms of who's going to most benefit from the program, so that the public has more confidence and trust that service providers are using limited resources the best way they can. Thank you.
Thanks. See two other people. So inch word. You're welcome to. We got plenty of time.
Chaz Rourke, Missoula resident. I'm just curious if we're going to get any idea on the needs assessment. So how much of this $750,000 do we anticipate going to that 200% income, potentially against that $25,000 side of the spectrum? Really like the whole spectrum there, because we do need upward mobility to create more space at the bottom for people to move into. But I do see personally quite a bit more need on that left side. So I'm curious if we have any sort of idea on how that $750,000 is going to be spent across that spectrum. And that's the only question I have.
Thanks. Can I just go for it? So at this point, what we're doing is creating this fund. Next step is creating some programs, and then we'll have plenty of conversation about those programs too. So right now, this is a space to put this money and say, we're going to spend this money on housing. The specific programs have not yet been identified. And in Garrick's spectrum, if you look over, for me, it's on the left, on the eligible for federal funds. Keywords are federal funds, right? So we're going to be spending our money much more here addressed by local policy. That's us and funds, opposed to the high end there provided by current market. That's not to say we're not going to bleed into the current market or bleed into the eligible for federal, but our focus is on that missing middle, not on the very bottom and not on the very top. And we have not yet designed the programs, but I do really appreciate your input.
Do you want to also say something about, where the money's coming from?
Yes, thank you very much. And mentioned taxpayers. This is not from money people paid in property taxes this year or last year. This is coming from sales of land out at the development park. And I don't know when we bought that, but it was not in this century, if I understand it right. And because time going by, we were able to generate money from that, more money than I think was imagined at the outset, though I would have to look that up. So we're putting this money aside to work on housing. That doesn't mean that all this money will be spent. It means we're starting with this. Some of this money can be used in a revolving loan fund. Some of it could be leveraged to get further investment from the private sector. We have not yet determined that, but we are keenly aware of its finiteness and that it's really small given the needs in housing. So we are going to be very careful with how we spend it, looking very much at a return on investment. What's the biggest bang for the buck we can get with this money because it's not coming back? So, and details forthcoming over the next few months. Please do.
Yeah, just a tad bit more commentary, and maybe this goes to your point, Mr. Olson. Also, it's not lost on us the importance of having a clear idea of programming wise what these dollars will go towards. So I totally understand the concern that are we just getting, is the tail wagging the dog, or is the cart getting ahead of the horse, or whatever stock animal we're talking here? I would say no. We don't have all of the details programmatically figured out, but what I can say is that the first step in this whole process was a housing plan for Missoula County, which until a couple of years ago, we did not have. So if folks are here in the room or online, please do check out Breaking Ground, Missoula County's housing plan, which outlines the whole array of options, programmatic and otherwise, that a fund like this could be put towards. So this really is a step that was called for in that plan. We're taking that step, and we will have more to share in the weeks and months and years to come.
Thanks. Allison online, our communications director. Oh, you're muted, Allison.
Yeah, we can't hear you in here, Allison.
Thanks. Brandy.
Yeah, can you go over, I don't know if I'm sorry, I'm picking my child up from school. I listened to the whole thing. Can you go over how you're going to replenish the funds in that account? Because it looked like there was some talk about sale of community property, and you did cover that you were going to get some federal funds, but in the future, what will be built within our community to replenish the funds of this program?
Well, Randy, we don't have any specific plans to sell any property to replenish this funds. We're looking at this as a start. So that means some of this could be a revolving loan fund where we put money out and we expect it back. Some of it we can use to leverage private investment. Some of it may be grants. Some we could replenish this from sources we don't know about yet. We are just creating this space to put this money and creating an intent formalizing an intent that we're going to work on housing with this chunk of money. And like I was just saying, we're keenly aware that it's finite, and we will do our darndest to get the biggest return on investment. More details to come.
Thank you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Kevin. Kevin, there you go. Okay. Kevin may be muted.
Kevin, to unmute, you'll just have to hit the microphone button on your screen, and then we should be able to hear you.
Okay, am I there?
Oh, great. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and allowing public comment. Kevin Davis, longtime Missoulian, host of a weekly Reserve Street Public Working Group meeting where 2 of the 3 commissioners met with us this week. So thank you for that. We touched on this week's meeting about this housing fund. It was new to me, new to a lot of the public. And I agree with the public comment so far, especially the first commenter, I think it was Mr. Olson, that said, hold off on this, please. I think we need to hold off until we actually see where this funding would go, how it would be used, what partners would be utilized. We often talk at our meetings, how does this community measure success, and how would something like this be used? This is a large sum of taxpayer funds, and a lot of us have questions about the track record so far with how public funds are being used for housing and homelessness. So I would just encourage the commissioners to postpone this until the public has more engagement opportunities on this topic, understands it better, and is more confident with how it will be utilized. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else? Allison, are you back? Allison might have to walk over. Okay. Anybody? Oh, Mr. Olson, the woman behind you would like to speak.
Hello there. My name is Jordan Fields. I'm speaking in favor of the Housing Innovation Plan. Currently, previously my family was living in a household that had 7 people living in it, which is just an impossible living situation. Thankfully, though, we had the assistance of the Missoula Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which allowed at least some of the family to move out into an apartment where they'll actually be able to gain some amount of social mobility. I think that opportunity should be available to as many people as possible. So as long as that gets done, I'm fully in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olson.
So one other thing, I appreciate that it's not coming out of property taxes and things like that, and you're looking at, selling some parcels, but it's still taxpayer dollars that's going to this. And I appreciate what Jordan, right? What Jordan just said, and I completely agree. I think as part of this program, though, again, the lower spectrum income, you've got 7 people living in a house. There needs to be coupled some type of a skill training. I don't know what's available in Missoula or within the county for that, but I think it's important to say that we don't just want to give money to people to leave them in the same position that they were in. We want to improve. So any type of skill training that could be loaded into these programs, once this fund is more, I believe, more vetted by the community, I think that I believe that the community would bite off on it more if we say, hey, not only are we going to put these people in houses and give them more social viability, but we're going to also improve their lives and give them a trade or a skill set or apprenticeship or something along those lines. And I see it over and over in Missoula County where this is a big thing that's missed. I don't see any programs, and I don't know for sure if there is, it seems to be more of, when it comes to housing and homelessness, it seems to be more of a handout as opposed to a hand up. That's what I see. And I think it's important to incorporate the total picture of these people's lives who are experiencing this.
Thanks, Mr. Olson.
Thank you.
Allison let me know what she wanted to say, which was just that after the hearing today, there will be a page on MissoulaCountyVoice.com about this, and the public can provide comments and ideas on what the fund should go to. So I just wanted to say that since she was having audio issues.
That's really good. Thanks, Violet. So there'll be more opportunities to speak on this too. Brett, do you have any questions? You guys have anything else you want to add? Please.
Okay, I will go ahead and move that we approve the resolution establishing Missoula County's Housing Innovation Fund to address housing needs in Missoula County. And may I speak to the motion briefly?
Please.
So, yeah, thanks for everyone coming out today, providing their input and comment. One thing I've heard loud and clear is to try to be, not try, but actually be fully transparent in how this fund will be used, how this entire program is deployed in Missoula County, and I think we can rise to the occasion to make sure. And I think generally speaking, Missoula County does a pretty good job of trying to connect the dots for folks as far as what our programs mean for Missoula County residents and taxpayers. In this case, I would encourage folks to please take a look at our housing plan for Missoula County, breaking ground. Today, it has been preceded by a multi-year process, and that includes developing a housing plan, the first ever for Missoula County. It involves bringing on staff that are dedicated to housing and figuring out how to crack the nut of housing in Missoula County. And I think this is a foundational step. It provides the financial tools. It's not an inconsequential amount of money, but it really is not a huge amount of money for the needs here in Missoula County, particularly outside of the city limits. And we do not want to be duplicative of what is already happening in the city. We're cognizant of that, even though Missoula, the city of Missoula, is in Missoula County. The needs of folks outside of the city limits are not being addressed by Missoula County or the city of Missoula's housing fund. Hats off to our very own Josh Slotnick, Commissioner Slotnick, who has played a huge role behind the scenes in thinking through how this fund might be established and some of the programming that I think will eventually be rolling out here soon enough. So with that, that's my long-winded motion and a few comments.
Well, thanks a lot, Dave. I want to reiterate one thing Dave pointed at. This did not come from thin air. This came out of breaking ground that happened 2 years ago now. First of its kind in Missoula County, a long-term housing plan on how we address this very real crisis. One of the pieces that came out of that was hiring a staff person, Garrick, who made this happen. So we are following a policy that we set up. We also went through a community needs assessment process that we do annually, and housing was overwhelmingly identified by urban and rural residents as something that had to be dealt with. Top tier of concern. So there's a lot of background behind this and a lot more to do.
I will second Dave's motion, but I also really appreciate what Travis and Dave and Kevin, your comments and concerns. And I think this is part of this process, is to sharpen these tools and to explore what is going to work with this amount of money. And yeah, this is proof of concept. This is our opportunity to give it a shot. And I know the community is going to hold us accountable. So, and we appreciate that.
And please do remain engaged. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Excited to get started.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garrick.
Thanks.
Do we have any other business? Then I believe we're done. Thanks.